Hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow wealth slow and steady. And yes, I spent way too much time on my hair before filming this video, but that's a conversation for another day. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to analyze over hundreds of investment portfolios, and do you know what I've noticed? That the same costly mistakes keep appearing over and over again. And no, these are not small mistakes. These are six-figure mistakes that, if left unchecked for 20 to 30 years, can literally steal millions from your future self. And do you know what else I find most interesting? The fact that these are coming from some of the smartest and successful individuals. Successful professionals making great income. Think corporate executives, doctors, engineers, etc. People who are absolute experts in their own fields, but are unknowingly sabotaging their financial futures because, to be frank, they just haven't had the time and opportunity to learn better when it comes to managing their own investments. So if you suspect that you could be one of these people because you haven't logged into your 401k in years, or you've completely outsourced all your investments to a so-called financial professional, this video was made for you. Alright, with that, let's dive in. The number one investment mistake I see too often: getting your account prioritization completely backwards. Here's what I mean. I once had a coaching client who was crushing it when it came to contributing to a Roth IRA. For 5 consecutive years, she had been religiously maxing out a Roth IRA. Amazing feat, I told her so. She should be so proud. But when I asked her about her 401k contribution, especially up to the company match, she gave me a blank stare. Despite her company matching dollar for dollar up to 6% of her income, she had not contributed to her 401k. For some reason, she thought she had to prioritize her Roth IRA. She heard Roth accounts were the best because growth and withdrawals were all tax-free. And yes, she understood that fact well. The fact that once the money makes it into a Roth account, we don't have to worry about future taxes. However, that doesn't mean Roth IRA should be prioritized before 401k, especially the 401k company match. Company 401k matches are one of the greatest investment opportunities. Why? Because 401k match is guaranteed, immediate 100% return on your investment. It doesn't matter how the market is doing or even what you're invested in. When you contribute to the company match, you immediately receive another dollar for every dollar you put in. For example, if you make $100,000 per year and your company offers a dollar for dollar match up to 6% of your salary, when you contribute $6,000 to your 401k, your company adds another $6,000. Your $6,000 just became $12,000 without you lifting a finger. That's 100% return before your money even gets invested in the market. But here's what really gets me excited. Not only are you getting free money from your employer, you're also reducing your taxable income. That 6% contribution lowers your taxes for the year. So you're getting free money and paying less to Uncle Sam. An easy win-win. Now in this situation, I understand why my client prioritized her Roth IRA. She was excited about tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals in retirement. And she's not wrong. Roth accounts are amazing. But here's a key insight. The order in which you fill these buckets matters. When you're building wealth, you want to grab the lowest hanging fruit first. And the company 401k match is the lowest hanging fruit of all. It's free money with a guaranteed return that you simply cannot get anywhere else. So here's a simple rule of thumb when it comes to proper order of investing, especially between your 401k and your Roth IRA. First, contribute to your 401k up to the full company match. You want to capture that free money before anything else. Second, after you contribute to your company match, then look to max out your Roth IRA. Then third, if you still have money left over, come back to your 401k and try to max that out. The number 2 investment mistake I see too often. And this one really gets me fired up because it's so preventable. Cash hoarding. Successful people sitting on massive amounts of cash, letting inflation slowly eat away at it. I once had a client come to me with $650,000 sitting in checking and savings accounts. That is more than $500,000 just sitting there, barely keeping up with inflation. When I asked him why, he said he was waiting for the right time to invest and wanted to make sure he understood everything perfectly before putting money in the market. Let me show you how expensive this perfectionism can be. If he continued to sit on that cash for 3 years, while the total market had returned about 8% annually, he was missing out on about $167,000 of growth. Now, I understand if this money was earmarked for a short-term goal or if it was functioning as his emergency fund. But in this case, it was neither. It was long-term money that was just sitting in cash. And this is not an isolated case. I regularly see individuals with $200,000, $300,000, even $500,000 sitting in cash. Smart, successful people who are experts in their own fields, but are paralyzed when it comes to investing. Why do smart people do this? It's because many of them believe more research, more information equals better outcomes. And in their professional day job, that is likely true. The thorough executive wins clients. The meticulous engineer builds better systems. The detail-oriented doctor saves lives. But investing is different. The market does not care how much research you've done. And while you're researching the perfect investment strategy, inflation is guaranteed to eat your money. I've seen people lose more money to inflation by sitting in cash than they would have lost in even a bad market year. Here's a brutal truth. There is no perfect time to invest. There's no amount of research that's going to guarantee the market won't go down next week. And every day you wait is a day that inflation is eating away at your purchasing power. As the old saying goes, time in the market beats timing the market. Always. Seeing these mistakes over and over again from the members in my Financial Tortoise community is exactly why I created it in the first place. Because look, you can spend months researching the perfect investment strategy, but if you're sitting on $300,000 in cash or missing out on your employer match, you're literally leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. In my one-on-one sessions with community members, I see this transformation happen in real time. Just recently, I had a member who'd been paralyzed for 6 months trying to choose between 4 different index funds. Yes, that's right, 6 months. Meanwhile, he was not maxing out his 401k or his Roth IRA, and he had $80,000 sitting in savings account, earning almost nothing. In our one-on-one session, we reviewed all his options, identified exactly which account to prioritize, and came away with a plan to get his cash invested. The member told me afterwards, "I can't believe I spent a half a year overthinking a decision that we were able to process in about 20 minutes. That's the power of having someone who's seen these patterns hundreds of times before. And it's not just the one-on-one sessions. The community has everything you need to stop overthinking and start building wealth. Here's what you can expect to find inside the Financial Tortoise community. Access to one-on-one coaching sessions with me, where we can work together to build out your personalized financial plan. Step-by-step courses like Freedom Blueprint that walks you through exactly what to prioritize and when. Access to monthly live Q&A calls where we dive deep into key topics and keep you accountable. A private forum connecting you with other like-minded professionals on the same wealth-building journey as you. Premium tools like Monarch Money to track your progress. Our quarterly book club keeps you learning without the overwhelm. This quarter we're reading The Psychology of Money, which perfectly reinforces the simple, proven strategies that actually build wealth. And here's something I'm really excited about. We've just launched the Financial Tortoise AI Assistant, a custom GPT you can access 24/7. Think of it like having me in your pocket to answer questions like, should I prioritize my Roth IRA or pay down my mortgage? Based on your specific situation. However, to maintain the quality support each member receives, I only open enrollment a few times a year. So join the waitlist today at financialtortoise.com/community and get priority access when doors open again. Many members have completely transformed their financial lives through this community, and with the right guidance and clear plan, you can too. You deserve it. I would love to see you inside. Alright, with that said, let's get back to the video. Now let me share mistake number 3, which is costing people thousands in unnecessary taxes every single year. The number 3 investment mistake I see too often. Tax-inefficient fund placement. This one is a bit more subtle, so I see a lot of people making this mistake without even realizing that it is a mistake. To give you some context, when it comes to investing effectively, one of the big hidden costs that we have to constantly monitor is taxes. Now, when our portfolio is relatively small, taxes won't make that much of a difference. However, once your portfolio starts to get to $1 million plus, you'll definitely start to feel it. Thus, one of the ways to minimize taxes, apart from maximizing tax advantage accounts, is ensuring different asset types are placed in the most tax-efficient accounts. This approach, known as tax-efficient fund placement, helps maximize after-tax returns by reducing tax drag on your investments. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have $1 million split between a taxable brokerage account and a traditional 401k. You're investing in 2 funds, a broad market index fund like a VTSAX or a VTI, and a bond fund like VBTLX or BND. To make things simple, some people just split everything 50-50 across both accounts without thinking about taxes. But here's the problem. Bonds generate regular interest payments that get taxed at ordinary income, potentially up to 37% if you're in the highest tax bracket. Meanwhile, that broad market index fund, VTSAX or VTI, is incredibly tax efficient. It has minimal taxable gains distribution due to low turnover, and the dividends it pays are modest and mostly qualified, meaning they qualify for a lower tax rate. Additionally, VTSAX or VTI, compared to VBTLX or BND, has much higher growth potential because it's all stocks, not bonds. So in this example, you want to hold your bond fund inside your 401k where those interest payments won't be taxed every year, and hold your stock index fund in your Roth and taxable brokerage account where its growth potential and natural tax efficiency won't be wasted. I know this one is a lot more nuanced, but it can have a big impact on your tax bill, especially as your portfolio grows larger if you ignore it. Here's a simple rule of thumb you can follow. 1. Your highest growth investments should go into your Roth accounts. Money within Roth grows tax-free and withdrawals are tax-free. In this case, it would be your VTSAX or VTI. 2. Your tax-inefficient, income-producing investments should go in your tax-deferred accounts like traditional 401k. In this case, it would be your VBTLX or BND. And 3. Your most tax-efficient investments can go in taxable accounts. Again, in this case, it will be your VTSAX or VTI. The number 4 investment mistake that I see too often. And this one hits close to home because it gets so many smart, analytical people. Over-optimizing small things while completely missing the big things. I had a client who would spend countless hours trying to decide between VTSAX or VFIAX. To give you some context, VTSAX is Vanguard's total stock market index fund, which represents the total US stock market, while VFIAX is Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, which represents the 500 largest companies in the US stock market. He would obsess over which one was better, reading endless forum posts and analyzing historical performance differences. Meanwhile, he wasn't maxing out his Roth IRA. He had access to a mega backdoor Roth through his employer, but wasn't using it. And he had tons of cash sitting in a low-yield savings account because he couldn't decide which fund to pick. The irony here is that the difference between VTSAX and VFIAX is almost meaningless, especially when compared to the loss he was incurring by not utilizing these tax advantage accounts as well as not investing. Yes, is there a difference between the total US stock market and the S&P 500? Of course. When we run historical returns, there have been times when the total market has outperformed the S&P 500 and vice versa. However, from my perspective, to know which one will do better in the near future is akin to reading a fortune cookie because past data can always be manipulated based on what period we decide to compare. It is really period dependent. Thus, it's much better to simply pick one and focus on what we can control. So be careful not to get paralyzed by tiny optimization decisions, especially while ignoring the major wealth building decisions. The biggest wealth destroyer is not picking the wrong low-cost index fund. It is actually not investing at all because you're stuck in analysis paralysis trying to find the perfect solution that does not exist. The number 5 investment mistake that I see too often. And this one actually I say is one of the most devastating mistakes. Paying wealth-destroying advisory fees, especially for services you do not need. I had a client who was paying 1.1% annually to an investment advisor. On his $1 million portfolio, that was over $11,000 per year in fees. I thought, wow, he must be getting some white glove service to be paying that much. However, when I looked at what his advisor was actually doing, I was a bit shocked. The money was invested in a few simple ETFs that represented a bit of the US stock market, the international market, and the bond market. It was essentially a standard 3-fund portfolio anyone could have built in 20 minutes. Now, some people look at this 1.1% annual fee and go, that is pennies. What is 1%? I mean, I pay 30% tip for last night's meal. However, don't let the small percentage mislead you. We're talking about your nest egg here, not your dinner out. If we kept that 1.1% fee over 20 years, assuming a 7% annual return, the impact will be dramatic. Without fees, a $1 million portfolio could grow to about $3.9 million after 20 years. But with 1.1% advisory fee, the portfolio would only reach roughly $3.2 million. That small annual fee quietly erased almost $700,000 in potential wealth, money that could fund entire decades of retirement. And this assumes the advisor even matches market returns, which most don't. When you factor in underperformance on top of the high fees, the damage becomes even more catastrophic. Now, I'm not saying all financial advisors are bad. Some provide real value through comprehensive financial planning, tax strategy, and estate planning. But if all they're doing is putting your money in index funds and charging you 1.1% for the privilege, you're really getting the short end of the stick. The simple solution? Learn the basics yourself. It's not that complicated. If I could do it, you sure can. Employer match, tax advantage accounts, simple index funds, proper asset allocation. These are all concepts you can easily grasp with just few hours of focused study. And the best part is once you learn them, you can develop your effective investment strategy without paying someone else a fortune to do it for you. Thank you guys for watching the theme of investing and planning for retirement. If you want to learn some myths around retirement planning that are just not true, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.